All right, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is 7 outdoor objects I never saw before moving to America. Let's check it out.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And speaking of lost,
And that's the name of the channel this is coming from, guys. Lost in the Pond.
I'm starting to lose my marbles being in quarantine so long. And being here for now, I think it's 8 days, I've been giving some thought to some of the things that I miss about the outside world. And,
Let's go.
I'm not just talking about sort of fast food joints that are different in both countries, but sort of just really random, mundane objects. Like a wheelbarrow, for example. I'm not suggesting we don't have wheelbarrows in England. That's an example of a mundane object. And I want to talk about specifically 7 of those objects that I hadn't seen until I moved to America.
All right, let's go.
Yep, I'm really longing for those water towers, steel water towers specifically, because we do have water towers in Britain, but
they don't
they're
look like that.
concrete and look really brutalist and like they were made in the 60s.
Guys, okay, all right, this is good because I've been to the UK a couple of times, guys. So luckily his point of reference is the UK, so let's go, guys. But yeah, our water towers, how they are, only really exist here, guys.
America, all across the country, they have these kind of water towers that are just,
with
they're
the
in the middle
names.
of nowhere usually, and they're made of steel, and on the facade of them, they have the name of the town, and it's usually something like Snakesville. And you never see anybody near them or in them. I don't know what they'd be doing in them, perhaps replenishing the water. I don't know how water towers work. I just know that America has a lot of them, and you see them when you're on the highway, motorway, just like our next entry.
Highway. No motorway.
Yes, highway-based billboards. Who would have thought? I certainly wouldn't have until I moved to the United States. And that's because we don't really have them in Britain. We do have them in city centres, but you're not going to find them on the side of the road, because it's distracting, especially when it says something, profound like Jesus has risen.
He was definitely driving through the South, guys. I recently drove through from Atlanta to Daytona Beach, and while driving through South Georgia, I was like, bro, what are all these signs about, bro?
Going to take notice of that. And,
everything was religion.
Crash into the car in front of you, and if you don't have insurance, then you are screwed. Ironically, a lot of the billboards are for insurance, so at least you know who to call. I joked a moment ago about the kinds of things you might see on American highway billboards, but the truth is, anyone can really get an ad on those things. They often say, advertise here if there's nothing on it. And unless you have A, no heart, and B, a death wish, you also wouldn't want to crash into the back of one of these.
Yellow
school buses. I didn't grow up here as a child, so of course I never got to ride one. Probably never will, unless I become a bus driver.
No, you can get one, bro. Listen, there's a phenomenon in the United States of America called like schoolie culture, right? Where people buy these school buses and like convert them into like tiny homes or RVs, and they drive across the country. You can easily get into one of those. Basically, as an adult, sure, no problem. What's funny is that my wife is from Spain, and all she wanted to do, like the first time she came to America specifically, the first thing she wanted to do was find a yellow school bus and take a photo in front of it. So apparently, they are extremely iconic to people outside of the United States of America. I'm like, it's a little weird. Why are we taking a photo of a yellow school bus? But for her, it was just like, it's a yellow school bus. I don't get it.
Or a parent on some sort of school trip. Do they do that? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, growing up, I did see school buses, yellow school buses, in films like Superman and Forrest Gump. Those are just examples of films. But, I didn't think they existed in real life. This was quite a revelation to me. They're everywhere. It's not just in Indiana where I lived. It's also in Chicago. It's everywhere. I mean, you do see these yellow school buses everywhere. And I recognize that the majority of my audience is American, and this is probably profoundly weird to hear somebody talk about how yellow school buses are very widespread in this country. But I don't think they're used anywhere else in the world, or at least to my knowledge. They're certainly not used in Britain. I used to get to school by jogging. That's not true. Okay. I did take the bus, but it was one of those sort of stagecoach buses.
Yeah, I was about to get into that here. What's funny is, so like I've lived in Spain since 2015. And in the village that I live in, for example, you see kids getting to school in their buses, right? But these buses are literally what we would like, what do you call it, a stagecoach bus? Like it's like a Greyhound bus. We would call it probably a Greyhound bus with a bathroom in the back, guys. That's how they get to school. Those are their school buses over there, guys. Crazy.
Full decker, so I've got to sit on top, not at the back with the cool kids, at the front actually, and but they weren't yellow, and as you can see, I like yellow, and wearing this in solidarity with the school children. I'm not. It's the first thing I found in my wardrobe. I'd be lying if I said that yellow school buses were the only outdoor object that I learned through the films. That also applies to our next entry.
Go ahead. White picket
fences, the like of which you see in the film American Beauty and other such suburban-based films. It reminds me of American suburbia now that I've lived here long enough, but for the longest time, it was just part of the sort of movie set for me to make something look very pristine and idyllic and all of that. You'll occasionally see white picket fences here in different parts of Chicago. They're kind of rare, I suppose, but you do tend to see them at houses of families who've really taken care of their garden.
Right. I think it means that you you made it. Like once you put a white picket fence, that's your version of the American dream, right? Like you've made it. That's basically what that means. You're satisfied. You're comfortable. I've always made a deal with myself to never put up white picket fences, right? I never want to say I made it.
Okay, and in Britain, we don't have these kind of fences. A lot of our gardens are sort of framed off by brick walls or sometimes just shrubs and bushes and things. That's not a euphemism. You'll also see in the US mesh fences around gardens as well. They're kind of low down, they're just high enough that dogs can jump over them, but never do because they're too stupid. And they seem like they're there to just sort of stop people from breaking in, especially those fences that have beware of the dog on the side. Now, please, America or anyone watching this, don't take this as a green light to think you can go and burgle people's houses in Britain. They still have security measures and fences too. I'm underplaying it, but we don't have white picket fences. We also don't have these. Allow me to clarify.
Another thing that my wife wanted to take photos of. Driving through neighborhoods randomly looking for a house. I remember this very specific thing here. As she sees all of these mailboxes, regular, normal mailboxes, right? Nothing special, but apparently they're super interesting.
Our houses do have mailboxes in the United Kingdom,
they're closer
except
to the
our
door.
mail doesn't go into a mailbox, it goes into a letterbox, and our mail's called the post. I hope that was clear. And those letterboxes are usually on the front door, right? So letterman or postman, Letterman is a chat show host. Postman, post women, post people, right? They have to go right up to the door and become intimate with your house. Not so in the United States, or at least not always. You will have those kind of houses where just in front of their garden or yard, they'll have a mailbox that's sticking on kind of a pole, and there's just this tube, I suppose, a metal tube into which you put things, and then people have to go out and get it. I suppose it does promote exercise, which is needed in these quarantine days.
Right.
We just don't want to come into contact with the post people or mail people. It doesn't matter what you call them; they're the same entity.
Right.
Well, they're different people. You get the point.
We get it, bro.
Don't touch the post people, and if you do, wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap, making sure not to get your water from one of these.
Don't worry.
I'll tell you a story. When I was 19 years old, I was a big gamer. I was well into video games, and one of the video games that I played was a little game called Die Hard with a Vengeance. And you're just swanning around New York City, I think, probably, and you can crash your car into just stuff, right? And one of those stuffs was a fire hydrant, a very American-looking fire hydrant that looks like this.
Right.
They're more or less cylindrical, speaking in a pitch that only dogs recognize, and I only describe them as that to differentiate them from fire hydrants in Britain. Fire hydrants in Britain are nowhere near as sexy, and believe me, I didn't think I'd wake up today and say that either.
Oh, okay, I was wondering, bro.
Looking square things with an H on them, and no, they're not for landing miniature helicopter, nor do they signify a hospital. I actually...
Yeah, the ones in Spain are like in the street also. Kind of similar to that, but they're lying down and all of like the plumbing and whatnot is underneath the concrete itself. There's nothing special about it. But yeah, we're different. Absolutely.
It breaks out in the middle of the road. When does that ever happen? I wouldn't know what to do. I don't know how to operate these things, right? Who does? The experts.
Most of Manhattan knows how to work these things. Let you know right now. Yeah. The fire department comes, or someone else just goes outside with a gigantic, ratchet or wrench, right? And they turn the top off. They turn the top, they pull one of the sides off, and everyone just basically plays in the water in the middle of the street. I'm not going to say Manhattan, probably like Brooklyn or the Bronx.
Whereas American fire hydrants are absolutely gorgeous. They kind of look like elongated fireman helmets. Was that on purpose? Again, for the benefit of the dog. It can't have been, and I'm absolutely certain I wouldn't have made the correlation had I not been stuck in here for 8 days. I'm going mad.
Okay.
You know, how does the outside world look right now? Do people still have wind chimes?
They do.
Do they still, do they still raise these?
Absolutely.
The American flag,
is
and I suppose
everywhere.
there's a very good reason as to why I didn't encounter this until I moved to America, and it's because it's America's flag,
Right.
So that makes total sense right off the bat. I think in Britain, pound for pound, we probably, or at least when I lived there, didn't fly the flag, the British flag, as much as America tends to fly its flag.
Right.
It's very culturally ingrained to do that, isn't it?
The thing about this here is an interesting one. The term of how we see patriotism is very extreme to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world doesn't really care, if that makes any sense. Like in Spain, for example, if you were to fly like the Spanish flag, you are immediately going to be thought of as a supporter of the other side during WW2, guys, if that makes any sense, guys. You are instantly going to be brought back into the mustache man. That they're going to think that's who you are if you fly the Spanish flag, and at least in Spain. And so a lot, like the way patriotism works, guys, it's just a troubling thing, guys, at least for people outside of these states, guys, because they look at us and they're just like, oh, you guys are terrible, but not really. We just love our country.
My in-laws do it. Everybody does it. Even educated fleas do it. That would be impossible. They don't have the strength to lift up fabric. But
Right.
they're bloody smart, hence being educated. I don't know how I got sidetracked there. But yes, the US flag is absolutely everywhere. Again, this is not just something you'll see in films. And I think there's an understanding that Americans are deeply patriotic. How do you pronounce it?
Patriotic.
Let me know in the comments below. And it's not just outside of people's houses that you'll see these flags. You'll see
Everywhere.
them on the back of trucks.
Yep,
You'll
so
see
my
them
truck.
hanging on sort of company buildings. Don't know why I pronounced
Yep.
it like that. And just sort of everywhere. I mean, it really is everywhere. Sometimes you'll see absolutely huge American flags, and you can usually see them for about 5 miles away. That way, at least you know what country you're in. And so that's it. 7 outdoor objects I only encountered after moving to America. I just wanted to list those to remind us of what we're missing. I mean, admittedly, we're missing quite a bit more than those things. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS if you want more weird information like this. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. And as ever, a big shout out to all of my patrons who make these videos possible. Without them, I wouldn't have any of this. These videos wouldn't exist anymore. I would have given up 2 years ago. I certainly wouldn't have this nice new camera. So thank you again, patrons. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until next time, stay well, keep washing your hands, and keep watching my videos.
Right. There we go. Listen, I actually lived his experience again through my wife. Like, she just has her mind blown by all of our weirdness, guys. I'm telling you, it's not just that. It's also like grocery stores, parking lots. There's so many things that are just like odd to her. Again, grocery stores, parking lots, definitely the American flag. She's used to that though now. The mailboxes. He kind of, he was spot on with all the things that are just massively different here than anywhere else, guys. And root beer. She didn't know what root beer was, obviously, until she had it in her mouth. And then she was like, ew, this is disgusting. But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy your day thoroughly.